Hello, my name is Michael Pierce, also known as the Celestial Ronin, and I just want to talk to you about who shot first, Han Solo or Greedo. So this item is of such huge controversy in the Star Wars fandom. The Han shot first. Because in 1977, in the original edit of Star Wars, Han did shoot first. There was no shootout. There was just one shot, and Han came out from that confrontation with Greedo dead. So later on, in his special editions of the original trilogy, we find that the scene had been edited to include a shot from Greedo, followed by a quick juke of the head from Han Solo with an immediate return fire from his blaster. And many have saw this as kind of a betrayal of Star Wars from George Lucas. However, I want to kind of play devil's advocate, if you let me, as to why it was important for Han not to shoot first. That we have that confrontation where Han is forced to shoot. Some of this plays into the idea that what is canon? What's canon in Star Wars? We talk about that a lot online in our speculations, in our argumentations, our arguments, that we try to focus in on what is canon. To me, from the idea that a filmmaker, someone that's telling the story, whatever they say, in my opinion, this might backlash at me, whatever they say is the canon should be taken as such. I used to have a small, I wouldn't say career, but a small run as a storyteller / dungeon master myself, where I would present stories to players, and basically what I said goes for how the story was going to go. You know, people would like to have their own 2 cents to be included in that story, but and I often would try to make that happen as much as possible, but it had to fit within the confines of my story that I was trying to get across, in which I was trying to guide people to where I felt I could maximize my story into a way that built up into a climax and a resolution that would make sense for the players rather than random adventuring through space or through dungeons or whatever. So I bring this up is that Harrison Ford, it was a very newer actor, and he had a lot of talent. He was very good looking, and as an actor, already getting probably some attention after Star Wars, a lot of attention after Star Wars. The way I view it, this is my little head theory speculation, really I should say, is that Harrison Ford through the years has kind of looked down on Star Wars in a way that he didn't really enjoy the experience, and I think to myself, why would that? Because obviously from Star Wars got like a huge jump into his career where he was able to go on and do Indiana Jones, from there do almost a number of different roles. And the way that I see it is that Indiana Jones allowed Harrison Ford to be Harrison Ford. He was able to improv. He was able to do lines. He was able to do anything he wanted, basically. I assume, to certain confines, probably a lot more leeway than what he got on the set of Star Wars. I do know that there was talk where, you know, Harrison Ford wanted the idea that Han Solo would die in Return of the Jedi. You know, in one of the interviews that he gave the reason, like, look, Han Solo, he's got no mama, he's got no papa, he's got nothing, so he is a reasonable character to die. His story could conclude there and be done. But there was a different story in mind, that there was a continuation of Han Solo's legacy. His saga was not complete there in the movies. In a movie, yes, that would be perfect. Oftentimes what works well in movies, what looks good in film, doesn't always translate well what works in the long run when you're talking about an overarching story or saga. It's just that film as the medium sometimes makes an audience want to see a certain action. It makes sense, like Han shooting first in that scene, the build up, the rifle, the blaster being pulled from its sleeve, shooting at Greedo made sense. And a lot of us could argue, you know, he's not a cold-blooded killer for doing this. You know, he obviously had a weapon pointed at him from Greedo. You know, in our modern age of how we like to think of our defense of ourselves, we kind of think that that's completely reasonable. If someone's aiming a weapon at you, you're within completely your right to assume they're planning on using it. But why was it important for Han not to shoot first, for his overarching character? For me, this comes back down to a lot what I've been studying lately with Isaac Asimov. Isaac Asimov, his writings going back to the 1940s and dramatized on radio in the 1960s, makes me think that George Lucas was heavily inspired by the writings of Isaac Asimov. Han Solo himself might have been inspired by the main character from The Merchant Princes. In that story, if I can remember the character's name, Habo, pardon my excuse. I'll definitely put that information in the comments below. But this character was really interesting by him. He had a confrontation where he was going to a planet, and there was a spy posing as a Foundation priest that confronted him with a mob, and basically made him choose how he was going to react in the situation. In the end, he let the guy kind of to his own ends. He let the mob have this priest who was really a spy, and the guy died. Later on, he was brought to trial for it, and he was able to successfully defend against that trial. But I find the person that was part of the conspiracy's name very interesting. That this character was in rivalry with a fellow traitor named Sutt, who's it's like JORANE SUTT or something like that, which heavily reminded me of Jabba the Hutt in the reading, just how the relationship was between a few of the different traitors there. That might be a bit of a stretch, but if accurate, it would mean that Han Solo is supposed to be more of an enterprising character, that he doesn't rely on quick reaction time in order to set things in motion, but rather he has a plan in place, that he outwits his enemies rather than trying to confront them directly. I think it also plays more into the smuggler mindset, is that you don't want to have a front confrontation with someone in order to beat them. You basically resort to confrontation as a last resort, because outthinking someone is far better in the long run. But we really don't see that a ton from Han Solo's character. He is kind of a more brash character that you see in the films. But definitely it could play a part why they would go back and change this to fit more into a line with maybe a tribute to Isaac Asimov's Foundation series. So that's that in a nutshell. Han shot first only because that's how it looked in the original 1977, but canon-wise, Han defended himself against Greedo. It's not as epic for filmmaking, but for a storyteller, it says more about the character, what the character would do in a given situation that is part of his character's saga that doesn't just end with the films. And as Harrison Ford has recently said in his interviews, he's definitely glad that his character wasn't killed off, and he's definitely looking forward to being in The Force Awakens coming out soon. And by the way, I've got my tickets, and I know many of you are eager to see if I'm right about Jar Jar Binks and Snoke. Please do not spam the crap out of me opening night. I know you will anyway, but that's the nature of the beast. Anyway, I appreciate you guys. I've tried to go through all my subscribers that have videos. I've tried watching them, make comments, upvote, giving you a thumbs up on YouTube. I definitely want to support you as much as you're supporting me and taking the time to listen to what I have to say. So thank you. Have a good one.